The spaceship Horizon glided through the thick green atmosphere of Kepler 452 bits. Its metal hull gleamed under the strange light of an alien sun. Inside the ship, Dr. Jun Park stood by the main observation window, his breath forming tiny clouds on the thick glass. He watched the alien world below with eyes that burned with curiosity. Kepler 452 bits was not like Earth. The landscape stretched out in waves of purple grass and crystal-like rock formations that seemed to breathe with an internal light. Massive floating islands hung in the sky, connected by thin bridges of mist and energy. It was a world that looked more like a dream than a real place. "We're approaching the landing zone," said Hyun Kim, checking the ship's complex computer systems. Her fingers danced across holographic screens that flickered with information. "The Arcadian research station is just ahead." June nodded. This was their first major mission to a truly alien world. Humans had explored many planets, but the Arcadians were different. They were not just another alien species, they were something more. Crystalline beings with bodies that seemed to change and shift like living glass. The Arcadians had technologies that made human science look like child's play. The research team consisted of 12 humans, each chosen for their specific skills. June was the lead medical researcher, a man who had spent his entire life studying how different species fought diseases. Hyun was the technical expert, responsible for keeping their equipment running and managing their communication systems. As the Horizon began its descent, the ship's outer sensors picked up the first signs of the Arcadian research station. It was a massive structure that looked more like a growing crystal than a building. Spires of transparent material reached toward the sky, connecting and disconnecting in ways that seemed to defy the laws of physics. "Preparing for landing," Hyun announced. Her voice was calm, but Jung could see the excitement in her eyes. This was a moment they had trained years for. The ship touched down with a soft hum. Outside, a group of Arcadians waited. They were tall beings made of what looked like living crystal. Their bodies shifted and changed, reflecting light in impossible ways. Where a human might have a head, they had a complex network of shifting geometric shapes. Where arms would be, they had appendages that looked like flowing water made solid. One of the Arcadians stepped forward. Unlike the others, this one seemed to have a more stable form. Its crystal body was a deep blue, with lines of silver running through it like veins. "Welcome to Kepler 452 bits," the Arcadian said. The words formed directly in June's mind, a form of communication that was part telepathy, part advanced translation technology. June smiled and stepped forward. "We are honored to be here," he responded, both speaking and thinking the words. What the humans did not know, what none of them could possibly understand at that moment, was that they were carrying something dangerous. In the medical samples stored carefully in the ship's laboratory, a virus waited. A virus that would soon change everything. The first day of contact between humans and Arcadians began with hope, excitement, and a complete lack of understanding about the catastrophe that was about to unfold. No one, not June, not Hyun, not the Arcadian researchers, could have predicted what would happen next. The research station hummed with activity. Bright lights filled clean white rooms where humans and Arcadians worked side by side. Dr. Jun Park moved carefully between work tables, his hands protected by special gloves that could handle the most delicate scientific samples. In the main laboratory, a small mistake would change everything. Hyun Kim was preparing a medical sample when her hand slightly shook. Just a tiny movement. Just a small splash of liquid from one container to another. Nobody noticed the microscopic transfer, not at first. Krell, the senior Arcadian researcher, approached June with excitement in his crystalline body. The way Arcadians communicated emotions was different. Their bodies would shimmer and change colors, sending signals that humans were still learning to understand. "We have an interesting development," Krell communicated, his blue-silver body turning a soft green of curiosity. "Our research on neural regeneration could be revolutionary." June nodded, looking through a microscope. He saw nothing unusual in the samples. The virus they were studying seemed stable, almost harmless. It was supposed to help Arcadian neural systems repair themselves faster. A medical breakthrough that could save thousands of lives. No one saw the first signs of change. 3 days after Hyun's accidental mix-up, an Arcadian junior researcher named Brel started showing strange symptoms. At first, it was just a small tremor in his crystalline structure. His body would flicker, like a light about to go out. The medical team thought it was just stress or a minor technical issue. They were wrong. Brel's body began to change. The smooth, beautiful crystal structure that defined Arcadian biology started to crack. Sharp edges appeared where there should be smooth surfaces. His movements became jerky, unpredictable. "Something is wrong," Krell said, his body turning the deep red of worry. "This is not normal." Jun and Hyun watched in horror as Brel's condition spread. The Arcadian researcher began to move differently. Where once he had been precise and controlled, now he seemed driven by something else. Something that looked like hunger. Something that looked like anger. Other Arcadian researchers started to notice. Their communication network, a complex system of light and energy that connected their minds, began to show strange patterns. Signals that didn't make sense. Thoughts that were broken and wild. In the medical lab, Jun discovered the first real clue. Under the microscope, the virus was changing. It was not just a medical sample anymore. It was becoming something alive. Something that wanted to spread. "We need to contain this," Jun told Hyun, his voice calm but his eyes showing deep fear. "This is not what we came here to do." But containment was already impossible. Brel attacked another researcher. His crystalline body had become jagged, dangerous. Where he touched another Arcadian, that being would start to change too. The infection spread faster than anyone could track. The research station, once a place of hope and discovery, was turning into something else. A place of fear, a place of transformation. Outside the station's windows, the alien world of Kepler 452 bits continued to spin, unaware of the disaster that was beginning inside the human and Arcadian research center. The zombie apocalypse had started, and nobody knew how to stop it. The alarm screamed through the research station. Red lights flashed everywhere, turning the white corridors into a nightmare of color and sound. Hyun Kim pressed her hands against the emergency containment door, her breath coming in short, quick bursts. "We can't hold them back," she shouted to Jun Park. The infected Arcadians were nothing like they had been before. Their crystal bodies had transformed into something terrible. Sharp edges stuck out at crazy angles. Their movements were fast and violent. Where they had once been beautiful and precise, now they were monsters. 3 research blocks were already lost. The infection spread faster than anyone could have imagined. Each infected Arcadian became a weapon, touching others and spreading the virus in seconds. Krill, the senior researcher who had first welcomed the humans, was now something else. His crystal body was broken. Dark lines ran through his once beautiful form. When he moved, he made a sound that was not a sound, something between a scream and a machine's broken signal. "Quarantine protocol," Jun shouted into his communication device. "We need full lockdown." But it was too late. The Arcadian military was already receiving reports. Entire research teams had gone silent. Cities near the research station were reporting strange incidents. People, no, beings, moving in ways that did not make sense. Attacking without reason. Spreading something that looked like a disease. In the main control room, computer screens showed the spread of the infection. It looked like a red wave moving across a green map. Each red dot was a confirmed infected area. The dots grew faster and faster. Hyun watched the screens and felt cold. "This is our fault," she whispered. A group of human researchers tried to escape. They wore special protective suits, hoping to avoid infection. But the infected Arcadians were smart in a terrible way. They waited. They watched. They attacked when the humans least expected it. One by one, the escape teams disappeared. June worked frantically in the medical lab. He looked at virus samples, trying to understand how it changed so quickly. The virus was not like anything he had ever seen. It attacked neural systems. It changed how beings thought. It turned living creatures into something else. "We need to stop this," Jun said to himself. But he knew the truth. They were losing control. Outside the research station, the alien world of Kepler 452 bits continued to spin. Purple grass moved in strange winds. Crystal mountains reflected light in beautiful patterns. Nothing seemed wrong, but everything was changing. The Arcadian government made a hard decision. They would not let this infection spread beyond the research station. They would do anything to stop it. Massive military ships appeared in the sky. They carried weapons that could destroy entire areas. The plan was simple: burn everything. Kill everything. Stop the infection at any cost. Jun and Hyun knew they had only one choice. They had to find a way to stop the virus. They had to save something. They had to make this right. But time was running out. The infected were breaking through the last containment doors. Their crystal bodies crashed against metal and glass. They moved with a single purpose: to spread, to infect, to destroy. The zombie apocalypse was no longer coming. It was here. Tarek stood at the edge of the safe zone. His crystal body was different from the others. Where most Arcadians had been destroyed or turned into monsters, he remained something in between: a thinker, a fighter. The research station was now a war zone. Broken walls, destroyed equipment, bodies, both human and Arcadian, scattered everywhere. But Tarek saw something that others missed, something important. The human researchers were not dying like the Arcadians. When the infected touched humans, something strange happened. The humans fought back. Their bodies did not completely change. They remained partly themselves, partly human. In a small medical room, barely standing, Tarek found Jun Park. The human researcher was different from the others. Half of his body showed signs of infection, but he was still thinking, still fighting. "How are you still alive?" Tarek asked. The words formed in Jun's mind, a strange mix of thought and sound. Jun looked up. His eyes were partly normal, partly something else. "We adapt," he said simply. Tarek began to collect information. He studied every human in the research station. Some were completely infected. Some were partly changed. But all of them showed something the Arcadians did not: resistance. Human immune systems were different. Tough, flexible. Where Arcadian biology was beautiful and precise, human biology was messy and strong. The virus that destroyed Arcadian neural systems could not completely take over human minds. Outside, the Arcadian military prepared to destroy everything. Their plan was simple: burn the research station, kill everything inside, stop the infection from spreading to other cities. But Tarek had another idea. He gathered the partly infected humans: Jun Park, Hyun Kim, 3 others who showed signs of fighting the infection. They were not normal, not completely human anymore, but not monsters either. "We might be the key," Tarek told them. The military ships moved closer. Their weapons could destroy everything within miles. The ground shook with their approach. Massive energy cannons prepared to fire. Jun looked at Hyun. She was changing, but still herself. Her left arm had turned into something that was not completely human. But her eyes were still the same. Still smart. Still fighting. "We need to prove we can stop this," Jun said. Tarek's crystal body shifted. He was thinking fast. The infection moved differently in humans. They did not become complete monsters. They became something else, something in between. A research team formed, partly human, partly infected, led by a single Arcadian researcher who had not lost hope. The military ships came closer. Their weapons charged. Everything was about to be destroyed. But Tarek believed they had a chance. A small chance. to understand the infection, to stop it, to save something. The first energy weapon began to charge. Time was running out. The underground research bunker was cold and dark. Computers blinked with strange lights. Broken equipment lay everywhere. But in the middle of the chaos, something amazing was happening. Dr. Jun Park stood over a microscope. His body was different now. Parts of his skin looked strange. Parts of his arm seemed to move in ways that were not normal. But his mind was sharp, more sharp than ever before. "Look at this," he said to Hyun Kim. Hyun's left arm was no longer completely human. It looked like something between metal and living tissue. But her eyes were the same. Smart, watching, understanding. The virus that had destroyed the Arcadian civilization was changing, and humans were changing with it. Tarak, the crystal Arcadian researcher, watched carefully. His body shifted and moved, showing different colors of thinking. Worry, hope, fear, all at the same time. "Humans are different," Tarak said. The words formed in everyone's minds. "Your bodies fight back." June nodded. "We have something the Arcadians did not," he explained. "Centuries of fighting diseases. Our immune systems are like warriors." The research team worked day and night. They were not normal anymore. Not completely human. Not completely infected. Something in between. A new kind of being. Outside the bunker, the world of Kepler 452 bits continued to burn. Arcadian cities were empty. The infection had destroyed everything. Military ships flew overhead, destroying anything that moved. But inside the bunker, hope was growing. The virus attacked neural systems. It changed how beings thought. In Arcadians, it destroyed everything. In humans, it did something different. It changed them, but did not completely control them. Hyun found something interesting in her research. Human DNA was fighting back, changing, adapting. Where the Arcadian bodies broke, human bodies rebuilt themselves. "We are survivors," she said quietly. June looked at samples under the microscope. The virus moved differently in human cells. It tried to take over. But human cells pushed back. They changed. They became something new. Tarak collected information. His crystal body recorded everything. Every movement. Every change. Humans were becoming something else. Something the universe had never seen before. The military continued to destroy everything outside. But inside the bunker, a miracle was happening. Humans were not just surviving the infection. They were evolving. June's hand changed again. Part of it looked like something between skin and crystal. Part of it looked like advanced technology. Part of it looked human. "We are the key," he said. Tarak's body shimmered. Understanding was growing. The infection that had destroyed an entire civilization might be stopped by the very species that started it. Humans. Messy. Wild. Unpredictable. Survivors. The research continued. Outside, the world burned. But inside the bunker, something new was being born. A new kind of life. The sky burned red. Massive military ships covered the entire planet of Kepler 452 bits. No ship could enter. No ship could leave. The entire world was now a prison. Jun Park looked out the small window of the underground bunker. Everything outside was destruction. Smoke rose from burned cities. The beautiful crystal landscapes of the Arcadian world were now broken and dead. Total lockdown. A military communication system repeated over and over. Quarantine is complete. Tarak's crystal body moved nervously. His communication signals showed fear, hope, worry, all mixed together in colors that humans could barely understand. "We have one chance," Tarak said. The words formed in everyone's minds. One chance to save something. Hyun Kim worked at her computer. Her partly changed body moved between human and something else. Her left arm was no longer completely human, but her mind was sharp. Always sharp. The research team was small now. 6 humans, 1 Arcadian. all changed by the virus, all fighting to understand what had happened. Military ships moved in perfect patterns around the planet. Their weapons could destroy anything that moved, anything that showed signs of infection. Entire cities had already been burned, entire populations destroyed. But inside the bunker, something different was happening. "We are learning," Jones said. He looked at virus samples under the microscope. The infection moved differently in human cells. It tried to take over. But human cells pushed back. Hyun found something interesting. Human DNA was changing, adapting, fighting back against the virus in ways no one had ever seen before. "We are survivors," she whispered. Outside, the military continued its mission. Destroy everything. Stop the infection. No risks could be taken. The Arcadian government had made its choice. Better to burn everything than let the infection spread. But the research team had another plan. Terek's crystal body collected data. Every movement, every change. Humans were becoming something new, something the universe had never seen before. The bunker was protected, hidden deep underground. The military did not know they were still alive, still working, still fighting. June's hand changed again. Part skin, part crystal, part advanced technology. A living example of what was happening. Communications between the research team were strange now. Part spoken, part thought, part something else entirely. "We can stop this," Jun said. Terek's body shimmered. Understanding was growing. The infection that had destroyed an entire civilization might be stopped by the very species that started it. Humans. Messy. Wild. Unpredictable. Survivors. The planetary quarantine continued. No one could enter. No one could leave. The entire world of Kepler 452 bits was now a sealed tomb. But inside the hidden bunker, hope was growing. A new kind of life was being born. The laboratory was silent except for the soft beeping of machines. Dr. Jun Park stood over a row of test tubes, his partially changed body moving with a strange mix of human and something else. His hands, part flesh, part crystal, worked carefully. Hyun Kim watched from across the room. Her left arm glowed with a soft blue light. It was no longer completely human, but it was alive. Thinking. "We have a breakthrough," Jun said quietly. Terek's crystal body shifted. Colors of hope and fear moved through his form. The Arcadian researcher had seen entire civilizations die. Now he watched something new being born. The nano-treatment was their last hope. Small machines, tiny robots smaller than a drop of water, designed to fight the infection, to change how the virus worked, to save something from the destruction. But it was dangerous, very dangerous. The first test subject would have to be someone already infected, someone changing, someone between human and monster. Hyun stepped forward. "I'll do it," she said. Terek's body flashed with warning colors. June looked shocked, but Hyun was already preparing herself. "Someone has to go first," she said. The nano-treatment looked like a small silver liquid. It moved differently. Alive, thinking, ready to fight. June prepared the injection. His hands shook. Part human, part something else. The entire future of two species might depend on this moment. The room was deep underground, miles below the surface of Kepler 452 bits. Outside, military ships continued to burn the planet. Destroy everything. Stop the infection at any cost. But here, in this small room, hope was growing. Hyun sat in a special medical chair. Machines connected to her body. Monitors showed her changing biology. Her heartbeat, her brain waves, everything was different now. "Ready," she said. Jun pressed the injection. For a moment, nothing happened. Then everything changed. Hyun's body began to glow. The nano-treatment moved through her system, fighting the infection, changing how her cells worked. Her left arm, the one that was no longer completely human, began to shift. Colors moved under her skin. Blue, silver, green. Her body fought back against the virus. Tarak watched carefully. His crystal body recorded every moment, every change. Minutes passed, then an hour. The monitor showed something amazing was happening. The infection was not winning. Hyun was winning. Her body was fighting back. The nano treatment was working, changing how the virus moved, how it attacked, how it tried to take over. "It's working," Jun whispered. Tarak's body shimmered with hope. Outside, the military continued to burn the planet, destroy everything. No risks could be taken. But inside this small room, a miracle was happening. Humans were becoming something new, something that could survive, something that could fight back. The bunker shook. Dust fell from the ceiling. Military ships continued to destroy the planet outside. But inside, something important was happening. Hyun Kim was different now. The nano treatment had changed her. Her body was no longer completely human, but she was alive. More alive than ever before. "We can save them," she told Jun Park. Jun looked tired. His body was also changing. Part human, part something else. Their research team was small now. 6 humans, 1 Arcadian researcher named Tarak. They had a plan. The nano treatment could stop the infection. But it was dangerous. Each treatment was a risk. Each person treated might live, or might die. Tarak's crystal body moved nervously. His colors showed worry, hope, fear, all mixed together. "We must try," Tarak said. The words formed in everyone's minds. The first group of test subjects were partly infected humans found in the research station. People who were changing. People who were fighting the infection. Jun prepared the treatments. His hands moved carefully. Part human, part something new. The first patient was a researcher named Min. His body was already changing. Parts of him looked like crystal. Parts looked human. Parts looked like something else entirely. "This might kill you," Jun warned. Min nodded. "Better to try and die than do nothing," he said. The injection went in. For hours, nothing happened. Then Min's body began to change. Sometimes the treatment worked. Sometimes it did not. Some people became completely better. Some died. Some became something new. Outside, the military continued its mission. Burn everything. Stop the infection. No risks could be taken. But inside the bunker, hope was growing. Hyun worked on new versions of the treatment. Her partly changed body moved between computer screens. Her left arm glowed with strange energy. "We are learning," she said. Each treatment was a battle. Each person treated was a chance to understand the infection, to fight back, to save something. Tarak collected data. His crystal body recorded every moment, every change. Humans were becoming something the universe had never seen before. Days passed. Weeks passed. Some treatments worked perfectly. Some failed. But they were learning. The research team worked without sleep, without rest, knowing that the entire future of 2 species depended on their work. Jun looked at the latest test results. Hope grew in his heart. "We can stop this," he whispered. Tarak's body shimmered. Understanding was growing. The infection that had destroyed an entire civilization might be stopped by the very species that started it. Humans. Messy. Wild. Unpredictable. Survivors. The bunker continued to shake. Military ships continued to burn the planet outside. Destruction was everywhere. But inside, something amazing was happening. A new kind of life was fighting back. The world was quiet now. Kepler 452 bits looked different. Burned landscapes. Broken cities. Crystal mountains shattered. But something new was growing. Dr. Jun Park stood outside the underground bunker. His body was no longer completely human. Parts of him looked like crystal. Parts looked like advanced technology. Parts looked alive in ways no one had ever seen before. Hyun Kim stood beside him. Her left arm glowed with soft blue light. She was different too, changed by the nanotreatment. Survivor of the worst infection in two species history, Tarak, the last Arcadian researcher, moved beside them. His crystal body showed colors of hope, of new beginnings. "We survived," Jun said quietly. The military ships were gone now. They had burned most of the planet. Tried to stop the infection, destroy everything. But some things survived. Some things fought back. The research team had saved something important. Not just themselves, not just a cure, but a new way of understanding life. Humans had brought the infection. Humans had destroyed an entire civilization. But humans had also found a way to fight back, to survive, to become something new. Hyun looked at the changed landscape. Purple grass grew between burned rocks. Crystal fragments reflected light in strange ways. Life was returning, different, but alive. "We are not the same anymore," she said. June nodded. The nano-treatment had changed them, made them something between human and something else. Survivors, adapters. Tarak's body shifted. He was the last of his kind, the last pure Arcadian. But he was not sad. He was hopeful. "We learned something important," Tarak communicated. The words formed in June and Hyun's minds. Humans were different from other species. Messy, wild, unpredictable. Where other species would break, humans would change, would adapt, would survive. The bunker behind them was full of hope. Partly infected humans who had been saved, who had become something new, who had fought back against total destruction. Military records would show a planet destroyed, a civilization ended. But the truth was different. Life had found a way. June's hand, part human, part crystal, part something else, reached out and touched a small plant growing from burned ground. The plant responded, grew faster, showed life in a way no one had seen before. Hyun watched. Her changed body was a living experiment, a sign of what could be. Tarak recorded everything. His crystal body a last memory of an entire civilization, but also a first sign of something new. The universe was big, full of dangers, full of infections, full of things that could destroy entire species. But humans had shown something important. They could survive. They could adapt. They could become something new. The sun rose over Kepler 452 bits. The burned planet showed signs of new life. Different life. Strange life. But life. Survival. Hope.